Hi, my name is Dave Cuthbertson from AssetGen, and I'm going to take you through how we can automate the maintenance of large numbers of Visio and Excel diagrams and spreadsheets. One of the problems of any enterprise is that there are many hundreds or even thousands of Visio diagrams used by various technical teams to communicate and understand how the systems work and how they manage change. They could be project, they could be operational documents. The time it takes from when you either plan or implement a change to when you update all the relevant documentation could also be a problem, because it may take months, but we want to try and reduce this down in both time and effort. And we also want to try and ensure there is consistency of both format and presentation, so that everybody knows what should be in a document or a diagram and what may not necessarily be in scope. So to summarize, some of that is we want one update coming into AssetGen. Maybe we've changed a server, we've changed the network connection, and this may then change various types of outputs which AssetGen will produce for you, such as inventory lists, patching lists, feeds into monitoring systems, but also the diagrams such as floor and rack diagrams, network diagrams, things which help communicate the complexity of the infrastructure. But if we had a network diagram for every site, then we may have hundreds of sites and hundreds of diagrams. We also need to be able to support the different needs for both planning, operations, and what we'll be focusing here is the new feature of AssetGen 4, which allows us to do schedule updates so that then we can then achieve thousands of updates within our environment. This is the AssetGen Connect screen, and if, for instance, we click on the Diagrams tab, and we looked at just one of the diagrams, I'll show you others as well. The way that we achieve this is we set up some templates which will have various settings. And so if I wanted to produce all the Visio rack diagrams just for the network racks, if I load this template, this will create a view that says this computer room, I want to generate a new Visio diagram of all the network racks using a particular Visio template, and it doesn't matter whether there's 1, 10 or 100 racks, it will produce that diagram. That template we will run on a regular basis, and here for instance, just within the racks, we could also produce one for the server racks where we filter out the servers, and also we'll do the computer room floor plan, so we'll update the computer room floor plan with the cabinet capacity and usage. We've set the settings to say I want this particular place, and we apply the same principles for instance to say network diagrams. We'll create a series of templates which will for instance create a network diagram for Birmingham, or they may create a diagram just of the communications between various sites and the DMZ, or maybe a storage area network diagram. So our AssetGen software is filtering out and then producing the different data sets required in order to be able to produce that diagram. The same will apply to our spreadsheet outputs that we provide. So for instance, I could provide a spreadsheet output of equipment ports. We would have some form of template which would summarize things. So in this case, could we have all the switch port connections brought out. So if I load up this template, this will then do various things such as the name and the type and the endpoint connection of every switch port, and we're only going to do this for fiber and copper ports. And if I was to run this, this would then produce a spreadsheet giving us that list. So I have preset the system to produce the different types of outputs, and I can then run one of these for every site or across the various technologies. The way we do this is in our utilities menu we have an automation option. We set up some form of schedule, so in this case for instance I've got one called network diagram updates, and this will then apply a number of different templates and update them all. So for instance if I click on Birmingham network diagram, this diagram will every run we'll then update this. It will take a particular source file which is our existing network diagram, it will archive it, and this will show you where it archives, and it will produce two outputs, a Visio diagram as an updated diagram with any changes there may be, and it will also update and produce an HTML version so we can update an infrastructure portal, and I'll show you what I mean by that. But the aim is that we then run this every night or whenever we want to actually run this as a schedule, and I have various other templates. We can select any of the different templates that we intend to use. So for instance, if I wanted to take that same switch port connections, I would select the particular template type, I would select the template that we wish to use. So as well as the Birmingham network diagram, we'll also add all the switch port connections. I can choose which format I wish, choose a location. In this case I'll just call it switch.csv. Choose the run, and if we add this, so when we run our network diagram updates, we'll also provide a spreadsheet in a particular location of all of the switch port connections. Having set up this schedule, we then create a file, and this will create an XML file which we can then either run manually just to prove and check that everything works, but the aim is then to use the Windows Task Scheduler to provide this. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the Windows Task Scheduler, this is what it looks like. It comes standard with every Windows 7 PC, and typically we would set up a remote PC, or a virtual PC, that would be on all the time, that would then run all of these updates. So we take a particular XML file schedule, so we'll call this Birmingham Rack Update. This will run at 2:40 every day, and the next run time is this. There are various triggers and actions that we have, but the aim is that this will then update and create, for instance, an infrastructure portal. Here's a network diagram which we may want to update. So this is the Visio diagram. We can see the various dependencies between all the different items. For those of you who looked at the other videos, AssetGen will add in the shape data and hyperlinks for you. And then this is what we may wish to do with this in an automated way using our system, is to support some form of internal website which we call an infrastructure portal. And so if I click on hardware infrastructure, if I click on Birmingham network diagram, we have automatically web published that same diagram, and this is what it looks like. For those of you unfamiliar with web publishing of Visio diagrams, if I click on this switch here, this will show you all of the data associated with the switch that's in the database. If I do a single click on the switch, this will hyperlink you into the AssetGen web application, so that we can then look in more detail and see the detailed connectivity of that switch, or we can look at various other associated documents, attributes, and get a history of that device. So every Visio diagram and all of the web published diagrams all have a link back to the original source of data for verification and checking. Here I have an equivalent web portal for all the various types of rack diagrams that we've automatically produced and updated. So this would be produced every night, for instance. I can go and look at any particular rack if I select it, and then this then shows us the current layout of the rack as it was produced overnight. Yet again, if I click on this server, I can then go into the equipment details to go into the AssetGen Connect system to know more about its detailed connectivity and history. If it also has our system mapping software, we'll also insert the hyperlink so we can do a business impact analysis using the SysMap web application. So in this case, we can now then do an impact analysis on this server from a business perspective, and we can then see that server would impact these 4 different business processes. So my infrastructure portal, where I was looking at making a change from a rack perspective, has given me the service perspective within a few clicks using the AssetGen system. If we go back to our scheduling system, we also have reports for administrators, so we can click on any report and we can then see a detailed list, so you can then create your own statistics from this. We can see if there are any errors in the system. If I click here, this will find the next error, that for instance there's a cabinet for deletion in the diagram, and we don't necessarily delete everything from diagrams. We forewarn people, and we give people the ability to, for instance, compare diagrams rather than update them, so that then I could see of the 200 infrastructure diagrams which we're maintaining, maybe 3 of them need a change, where we have to look and then maybe change the layout. So I hope that shows you there how, by the use of templates within the AssetGen system, we can extract and produce Visio diagrams in an automated way to support the scheduled updates I was just covering there. You've seen how we can maintain these diagrams and the spreadsheets, but also you can see how the update time can be minimized, and so you have options to either do overnight runs, or for instance if you've made some major changes, you validated them, you can manually overwrite all of these and say now update all relevant documentation that may be affected by the installation of 3 new cabinets and servers and the connections to their switches, so that then you don't have large numbers of people involved, the system just does it all for you. And the format and presentation is consistent because we're making use of, for instance, Visio templates to ensure we get consistency of symbols and shapes, and in the Excel formats we're using predefined layouts which you can customize based around your own process needs. I hope that gives you a good understanding. Please look at our other videos which go into more detail of how we would actually generate specific diagrams or outputs, and obviously give us a call if you want to know more.